You said it.
Yes, the people who don't fight evil fight those who do fight evil.
Yes. And why is that?
That's a great question. I think the answer is psychologic, but I'm not certain what the answer is. If I'm fighting evil X and you're not, I'm putting you in a difficult position morally. So you have two choices. Either, you know what, I should fight X because it's evil, or deny how evil X is and also diminish the stature of those that are fighting X. Because they have to rationalize they're not fighting. Why did they not fight communism? So communism, well, it's not that bad. I mean, there's good intentions of equality, which is an awful intention. It's not even a good intention, but that's another issue. You're fanatics. You're extremists. So I have to justify my moral failure. So I either have to acknowledge it's a moral failure that I didn't fight communism or whatever, or Hamas. The hatred of Israel is fighting evil. So vast chunk of humanity is not fighting that evil. So they must diminish Israel's moral status and claim that, oh yeah, well, Hamas is not a wonderful organization, but the poor Palestinians, what are they going to do? So this is a mirror of what I grew up with. Israel is the anti-communist of my youth, fighting the evil of our day, which is Islamic terror.
And one of the things I think that one of the crises that the West is facing is it's lost its moral framework. It doesn't know what evil is. It doesn't know what it means to challenge evil because it doesn't understand anymore.
Yes. Well, what the left has done, the left is organized moral confusion, and what the left has done has redefined all of these terms. So we don't have good and evil. We have white and black, poor and rich, colonialist and colonized. Those are the distinctions rather than good and evil. And so Israel has everything going against it. It's West versus East. It's strong versus weak. It's theoretically white versus non-white, although half of Israel is not white, and nobody likes to acknowledge that fact. And it's colonizer versus colonized. So the educated class doesn't speak in these silly traditional terms of good and evil, but rather of colonizer and colonized and so on. The Jews, we have this crappy role that the bad focus on us. I mean, let's be honest. Anti-Semites have not been among the finest people in any given society. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why when Hamas are described as, Palestinian liberation fighters or whatever other term is used, the absurdity of it, the moral absurdity, they're today's Nazis. That you can finally use the word Nazi for someone who wasn't a German in the 1930s or 40s. They want to exterminate the Jews. They claim it. And Israel, Israel is often charged with being an island of Western civilization in the Middle East. That's exactly what it is. That's correct. It's hated because it's essentially good. That's the irony. I mean, it's not hated by good people. It's hated by bad people. Wisdom is everything. Knowledge is not. The crisis, the moral crisis of the university, which are the morally most moronic institutions in the West, the universities. That's where people believed Stalin should be given nuclear secrets. Not everybody believed it, but that's where they came from, academia. Wisdom is much more important than knowledge. and much more important than good intentions. Good intentions without wisdom leads to evil. Vast numbers of people supported communism from good intentions. Vast numbers. And they produced Gulag and Pol Pot and Mao and on a lesser extent Castro and so on. Good intentions are worthless without wisdom. They're worse than worthless. They're harmful. Wisdom is everything. And I'll give you a fascinating insight. I mentioned the Jewish liturgy for the Passover Seder. It's called the Haggadah. And I wrote the only non-biblical commentary I wrote is on it's called the Rational Passover Haggadah. So there's a story in there, it's thousands of years old, that the Torah speaks about 4 sons, the famous 4 sons. Almost every Jew who knows anything about Judaism knows the 4 sons. So there are 4 sons, and this is how you speak to each of them to explain the Exodus, because Passover is about the Exodus. So there is there's the evil son or bad son, there's the wise son, there's the son who is simple, and the son who doesn't know how to ask questions. When I was a kid, I realized there's no good son. And nobody pointed that out at the Passover Seder. There was a bad son and a wise son, not a bad son and a good son. Because the opposite of bad isn't good, it's wise. Vast numbers of people mean well and do awful things because they don't have wisdom. And here, this is a challenge to secular people. There are certainly secular people like you, and I'm not buttering you up, but like you, who are wise. But there is no wise secular institution. The most secular institutions are our universities, and they are the least wise institutions that we have in the Western world. There's more wisdom in a rural Iowa church than at Harvard. I truly believe that. Partially because they begin with people not basically good, and you need a God, and so on and so forth. So yes, that's the one thing I want to believe people with: wisdom, and that's a biggie. Good intentions are nothing.